Alright, so welcome. It's been a while since I posted a video, but today I thought I'd go ahead and post an after-action review of a battle that we fought about 2 weeks ago. This is a refight of the Battle of Quatre Bras, which was fought on June 16th, 1815. It was one of the 4 battles of the Waterloo campaign, and the reason I chose this one is because the Waterloo setup is really popular with historians, amateur historians, and professionals, and I get a lot of requests when I sell my complete game system for Waterloo armies. A lot of people want the British setup for Waterloo. The problem, of course, with that is that the games that I sell have a mix of troop types that are really just designed to get you started in the game. Enough so that you can get a core-size action going on, learn the mechanics, learn how all the different troop types interact with each other. But doing Waterloo, even doing Quatre Bras, is beyond the scope of what comes in a starter box if you're using the standard rules. By the end of this battle, the British and their allies have a total of 15 brigades of infantry and cavalry on the board, whereas in a standard box set, you end up with 11 brigades. You can supplement some of it with the extra figures that I provide, but even so, you can't fight any of the battles of the Waterloo campaign using just what comes in a starter set. But you can if you use the double scale rules. Those were introduced so that you could fight larger battles with smaller forces. So what's set up on the board here right now is the armies in double scale. And basically what that means, instead of 12-figure brigades of infantry, a brigade is represented by just 6. You still have the same number of brigades, but the brigades are smaller. Light infantry half brigades are now represented by skirmisher stands. So you can get everything on the board, and it plays exactly the same as a regular game, just with smaller units. Now this particular setup that you're looking at shows the starting position of the troops on the board. And after this quick summary, I will go ahead and dismount the camera so you can get a close-up of what's going on. But basically what I'm assuming here is that the French set up as they do historically, but I'm going to allow the game to start earlier than it did historically. After Marshal Ney received instructions from Napoleon on the night of the 15th, he was instructed to seize the intersection at Quatre Bras and be ready to advance on Brussels if the Emperor decided he was going to go that direction first. However, Ney didn't take any make any real preparations for the attack until about 11 o'clock when he actually received written confirmation of Napoleon's orders. This assumes that he behaves in a more realistic manner, in which he's actually going to position his troops for the attack even while he's waiting for the orders. It doesn't hurt him to do that. And then as soon as the orders come in at 11, he can send his troops forward. So this game begins at 11. The biggest change that makes is that the British reinforcements that start coming in historically about 3 o'clock, that gives the French 4 full turns where they can engage the enemy before these reinforcements start to arrive. The historical scenario, it's very difficult for the French to actually achieve victory here. The British build up their forces very quickly and are soon able to drive the French back from Quatre Bras. In terms of casualties, the battle was about a draw. The Allies took actually a few more casualties than the French, about 4,800 Allies to about 4,000 French troops, but they held the crossroads. Starting at 11 o'clock means that it's much more likely that the French will be able to take the crossroads before the first reinforcements arrive, in which case this could turn into a situation where the British have to retake the crossroads. So what I'm going to do next is I'll go ahead and dismount the camera, show you a close-up of the troops as they're deployed on the board, and then we'll go on from there. Alright, so we're going to start with a close-up view of the French forces as they're deployed. Up front here we have the French 5th and 9th divisions. The 5th is on the left on the road, and the 9th is holding is a little bit further to the east. Each of those brigades, or each division, contains 2 brigades of line infantry and a skirmisher stand. The skirmisher stands are actually organic to the line infantry deployed on the board, each brigade contributing one figure. So each of the infantry brigades, instead of being 6 figures strong, is actually 5 figures strong for this game. Now notice that I'm using the division organization, the designations. Remember that in LPA, those divisions are unimportant. The local commander is going to use his lieutenants to command groups of brigades as he sees fit. So anyway, there's a total of 4 brigades and 2 skirmisher stands, and they are supported by 2 batteries of artillery, 1 of foot and 1 the corps heavy battery. And then guarding their right flank is a division of light cavalry containing 3 stands. Now you'll notice they've got 2 lieutenants, one leading the cavalry, and right now the other one is positioned between the 2 infantry divisions, and then the corps commander is behind. Over here, starting at the edge of the board, is the 6th Division. This is Prince Jerome's division. It was about twice the strength of all the other divisions in the army, and for this reason it's represented on the battlefield by 4 brigades of infantry, 2 of them light infantry and 2 of them line. It has a supporting battery of foot artillery, and there is a lieutenant attached to it, of course. So this is the French force. They do have 2 stands of off-board cavalry, one of them cuirassiers and the other guard cavalry, but they have to be diced for to see when they're going to come on the board as reinforcements. Moving over to the Allies start out with the 2nd Dutch-Belgian division on the board, and this is set up with 2 brigades of Nassau line infantry and a battery of horse artillery deployed in the Bossau Woods, and a single brigade of conscript Dutch-Belgian troops, along with a skirmisher stand deployed south of the crossroads at Quatre Bras. Speaking of the crossroads, there are no actual towns on the battlefield. Even Quatre Bras was just a collection of buildings. However, Quatre Bras, the farm at Pierrepont, and the farm at Geminecourt all are considered strong points that can be occupied by detachments. So here at Geminecourt, you can see that there is a single figure which is detached from this conscript unit that is occupying this as a strong point. It's basically like a small town, but with a reduced garrison. And the same thing is true up here at Pierrepont, where there is a single figure which is detached from the Nassau Brigade to occupy it as a strong point. Now the important thing for the Allies are the reinforcements that are going to come in. The first reinforcement that should arrive is going to be this division of British. It's got 2 brigades of British line infantry, one of them Highlanders, although they're still just considered line, and a single brigade of Hanoverian conscripts supported by a foot battery, and they'll be bringing on a lieutenant. At the same time these arrive, they should get these 2 stands of light cavalry, which will be coming on the board from the west. The 1st Division is coming in from the north. The next reinforcements that would come in would be this brigade, which is the Brunswick Corps. It's got a brigade of line and a brigade of conscript infantry, a single stand of cavalry, a stand of skirmishers, and a battery of artillery. Also, at about the same time it comes in, Wellington actually arrives on the battlefield. Until that time, the battle is being controlled by this lieutenant, who can represent either Prince William of Orange, Slender Billy, or the division commander, either way. But he's the only leader on the board for the Allies to start the battle. After that, there's another British division that's going to be coming on the board from the west. It's got a brigade of light infantry and 2 brigades of line supported by a battery and a commander. And it's going to have, finally, at the 6 o'clock turn, the 1st British Guard Division with 2 brigades of Guard Infantry, a brigade of Hanoverian conscripts, a battery of artillery, and a leader will all come on the board. So by 6 p.m., as I mentioned earlier, the Allies should have, minus losses, 15 brigades on the board, and they should heavily outnumber the French. So it'll depend on how they arrive and what the French do in the meantime. Alright, so we'll go ahead and get set up and do turn 1. Alright, so what I'm going to do here, rather than actually show you all the movement, I'm just going to show you briefly what the plans are of each side when they move, and then show you the result of that movement and any combat that goes afterwards. That way it should go a little bit faster. So to start with, on turn 1, which is the 11 o'clock a.m. turn, the French hold the initiative, and they can choose to move first or second, and in this case they chose to move first. Their plan is quite simple. On the left, they're simply going to start to advance toward the farmhouse right there. On the right, they're going to go ahead and advance their entire force. And that's the limit of their plan. They don't have anything else in particular scheduled at this point. So that's where they're going to go. So in just a second, we'll go ahead and see where they ended up. Alright, so this shows the position of the French troops after their move. On the far left, you can see that they didn't get a very good command roll, and were only able to advance about 4 inches. So those 4 brigades and battery advanced about 4 inches. In the center, 1 brigade and some skirmishers split off to try to mask the troops that were in the Pierrepont farm, while the rest of the French corps simply advanced straight forward. And they got a good roll, so they were able to move a full 6 inches forward. The only combat is going to be artillery fire. The 2 batteries of French troops in the center are going to be firing at the farm at Gimicourt, while the battery of Dutch-Belgian horse artillery in the woods is returning fire. Its only target is counter battery against the French artillery. In both cases, the horse artillery battery would have fired first. It missed. And the French artillery, because they moved that turn and the troops holding the farm are dispersed and in cover, they only had a 10% chance of hitting. They missed as well. So that pretty much finished the French movement phase, the offensive and defensive fire. I'm going to go ahead and speed up here just a little bit because the Allied player decided his positions were fine. He did not move at all. So the only thing that happened again was a repeat of the fire, only this time the French guns fired first. This time, since they didn't move, they had a 20% chance of inflicting a casualty, and they were able to hit the stand or the figure of infantry that is occupying the farmhouse at Gimicourt. Now, the Allied player had the option of reinforcing that position if he wanted to, but in this case he decided not to, so we're going to remove this figure from the board, and we're going to move the casualty onto the owning brigade. You can see that right now that conscript brigade has a white marker on it. That shows the detachment. Now that that guy has become a casualty, we're going to replace the white marker with a green marker, but no morale test is needed because the actual unit didn't take a casualty. Alright, over on the right, for the Dutch-Belgian gun, it again fired counter battery, but it missed as well. So now we're going to go into the second turn. The French again won the initiative. In this case, they're just going to continue doing basically the same thing they did before. The left flank is going to continue to advance. The right flank will start moving toward the fields and the crossroads. And over in the center, the troops that are facing the farm at Gimicourt, they're pretty much just going to move forward so they can start shooting at the guys in the farm. Alright, I'll go ahead and finish their movement, and then we'll go ahead and see how things worked out. Alright, so this is turn 2. The French, having won the initiative, elected to move first, and you see they're in position. Their movement on the left flank, they started to move forward, and they deployed one of their light infantry brigades into skirmish formation. The rest of their formation moved forward and joined in with the other brigade that was already facing the Pierrepont farm, and they engaged in a firefight there. The artillery in the center reoriented so it could start firing at the battery or the troops that are deployed on the edge of the Bosso woods. And on the right flank, the French move forward, and their organic skirmishers are going to engage the Dutch-Belgian skirmishers that are deployed in the field right there. The Allies fired first. They actually inflicted no casualties this turn. The skirmishers missed each other, so there's no casualties there at all. The battery, which fired at the line that is on the road through the skirmishers, also missed. And the single figure that's deployed in Pierrepont Farm, it actually took the opportunity to fire at one of the two columns coming in, so it still only had a 10% chance of inflicting a casualty, and it missed as well. The return fire from the French was a little bit better. There, as I said, there were no casualties on the right where the skirmishers were exchanging fire. So the battery, the two batteries fired counter battery against the horse in the woods, or the horse battery in the woods, and again they missed. And the combined fire of the skirmishers and the two columns that are moved forward were able to inflict a casualty on the Dutch, or rather the Nassau troops that are holding Pierrepont Farm. Again, the owning player could have reinforced, but chose not to. So we go ahead and do the same thing as we did at Geminincourt. We're going to remove the white marker off of the owning brigade, which is deployed in the woods, and replace it with a casualty marker. Again, this doesn't cause a casualty or a morale test, but it does mean that that brigade has now taken one casualty. So we're going to go ahead and remove it and replace it with a casualty marker. Their status is still green, and we take the marker out of here. Again, on the Allied player's turn, on turn 2, they decided that they were just going to hold position. So basically what happened here was simply an exchange of fire again, without what was going on here, because these guys now have no target. So there's no fire here. The two guns, the French guns now firing defensive fire, they were able to inflict a hit on that horse battery, and a hit on the horse battery silences the battery and forces it to withdraw. It's not a morale loss, but it does silence the battery and force it to withdraw. So they go ahead and mark the battery, and it will withdraw back into the woods a little ways until it can be brought forward again. The exchange of fire in the center, the skirmishers fired at each other again. In both of them, they're only firing with a chance one hit, but in this case, the Dutch-Belgian skirmishers were able to inflict a casualty on that French skirmish screen. No casualties were inflicted in return, so it's marked. And that finishes all the fire for that phase. The skirmishers did take a morale test, but they passed and everything was fine. Alright, so we're getting ready to go into turn 3. We'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and set that up so you can see the movement, or the planned movement first, and then we'll go from there. So I thought I'd show you some close-ups of what the battle looks like, in addition to the long shot that I've been giving you. So starting on the right flank, we had the exchange of fire between the skirmishers, the Dutch-Belgian skirmishers that are in the woods, and the French organic skirmishers that are screening their two columns coming up. You can see that the French took one casualty, marked by the green casualty cap. In the center, we had the two French batteries. They fired at the Dutch-Belgian horse battery that was deployed in the woods and were able to drive it back. It has withdrawn, and it was not able to fire because it was pushed back during the French defensive fire. And then over here in the far left, we have the skirmishers and two columns of French infantry moving forward, and they were able to eliminate the Dutch-Belgian, or rather the Nassau infantry that were holding Pierrepont Farm. And then over here on the far left, we've got the skirmishers deployed, or the light infantry deployed in skirmish stands. You can see how they're put on there. They have separate stands now that the individual troop stands go on. This is to make sure that they actually occupy the proper frontage. And they are being backed up by a French column, which is moving up with them. The horse, or the artillery rather, moved up a little bit slower this turn, so it's right back there behind. All right.